Hi, I'm Christian Brindle, and welcome to the Everything Medicare Podcast.
What's up, Everything Medicare Podcast Nation? This is Christian Brindle. Wherever you are and however you might be listening, thank you so much for tuning in to join me here today. This is episode 158. And as you might be able to tell, my voice is still a little jacked from me being sick with the flu last week. Doctor told me that I might have a little bit of a lingering cough, little bit of a lingering scratchiness there for maybe a week to 2 weeks longer. Hopefully it's not too much longer, but I appreciate you being patient with me through this episode, although my voice feels a lot better than it did on Wednesday's episode. So there's only good things to say about that. Folks, today we're going to talk about some news that transpired and just came to my attention yesterday, last night actually. And it's something that just recently happened. And it's something that I wanted to talk about and kind of give my perspective on. And it's a lesson that can be learned about Medicare Advantage plans in general. I guess this article was just published and just came available yesterday on the 21st. As I talk to you today, it's the 22nd of February, okay? With Medicare Advantage plans, there are good things, and of course, there are bad things. But people always highlight the bad things about them. And there are three things that you need to watch out for when it comes to Medicare Advantage plans, in my opinion. Three things that I think make them a little tricky. And that would be the ever-changing benefits year in and year out, the plans in certain markets canceling and pulling out of areas every single year. It doesn't happen everywhere. It doesn't even happen a majority of the time, but it does happen every single year, excuse me, all over the country. And the third thing is the network situation. What I mean by that specifically is doctors, hospitals, provider networks pulling in and out of networks, and that affects people's care dramatically. Okay. Medicare Advantage plans, of course, are network-based plans. They all are. There's very, very, very few exceptions to this. They have networks that they require you stay in network. You have to go to their lists of hospitals and doctors and certain providers for certain things. And if a doctor's not in the network, you either get less coverage than you would have, as if they were in network, or you get no coverage at all, depending on the specific Advantage plan. And it's something that you would think is not necessarily an issue as long as you check to make sure that all of your preferred doctors and providers are covered in that plan's network before enrolling. And that's typically a good practice. That's something that we always make sure that we're checking before we do a Medicare Advantage plan for folks ourselves in our organization. But there are some times, from time to time, where you can do everything right, and that network can change on you, even when you're in a situation that you can't potentially get out of the plan. When it's maybe you're outside of the enrollment period, but that doctor's network's contract has expired mid-year or something like that. And maybe they're having a squabble about something and they come out of the network. I had a call yesterday from a client of mine who's been on an Advantage plan for 2 years with me. Really, really enjoys it, really likes the plan. But he just found out last week that his primary care doctor that he's been seeing for 25 years is going to be dropping out of that plan's network, and we're going to have to change his plan, which luckily we can do so thanks to the OEP period that goes from January 1st through March 31st. We did an episode about that earlier on in the week. But it's something that's tricky, and it's something that, in my opinion, is one of those three major downsides on the Medicare Advantage plans. I'll review them one more time. The first one is the ever-changing benefits year in and year out. You have to make sure you're keeping up to date on them. A plan can look dramatically different from one year to the next. Number two is the plan's networks, of course. The networks are vitally important, like I just mentioned, and they're ever changing. And three, it's plans pulling out of areas, and people that might not be able to keep their plan long term if the plan doesn't do well in your area. It could potentially pull out of the market. Those are the three things, but I don't think there's anything that's more difficult to prepare for, or unexpected, or devastating for a person than potentially their doctor not contracting with the plan. Does this happen all the time? No. Does it happen nearly as often as some of the people that are anti-Medicare Advantage would like you to think? No. It actually happens pretty infrequently if you pay attention. But it doesn't mean to say that it doesn't happen. It indeed does. Now, this article that I'm going to be discussing with you has to do with, of course, the largest insurance company that does Medicare plans in our country, and that's United Healthcare. The article states, United Healthcare terminates Mednax from its network over pricing squabble. Now, who's Mednax? Well, we'll get into that in a second here. The article starts out by saying, United Health Group is cutting ties with Mednax, a physician staffing firm that focuses on providing specialty services including anesthesia, neuropathy, neurology, and high-risk obstetrics. Sorry, I'm having a tough day today. In both urban and rural areas. Mednax reported this on Thursday. This means Mednax's services will no longer be considered in-network for United Healthcare's members. Mednax said the surprise terminations will apply to all of its services throughout 4 states, Arkansas, Georgia, North Carolina, and South Carolina, effective between March 1st and September 1st. Mednax's CEO, Roger Mendel, said he was disappointed with United's decision to terminate the company's physicians from its network. But United Healthcare said it's looking for fair market prices from Mednax, which has changed more than 60% higher than other firms that provide similar services in these states, according to a statement from the insurance company. So it's very, very tough to say whose fault this is. Can you blame the insurance company or can you blame Mednax? We don't really know. We don't know enough information. And a lot of times with these squabbles, it's usually a combination of the two. Both parties are at fault, I found. But they'll both point the finger at the other. And this is not something new that we haven't seen before. Okay. But let's get into this a little deeper, because this affects more states, from my understanding, than just those multiple states. Okay, so Mednax is based in Florida. It has a network of more than 4,325 physicians in all 50 states and Puerto Rico. The dispute could possibly hit the company's finances through the company did not provide any estimates of potential impact. Mednax is not able to forecast the outcome of this matter. From my understanding with the article, I believe this is only going to affect 4 or 5 states, but it could potentially affect all 50 if the relationship gets bad enough. Goes on to say United Health Group is the nation's largest insurer, covering 27.7 million people, with commercial insurance, 9.7 million Medicare enrollees, and 5.9 million Medicaid members, okay? So what does this mean, and how can you really prevent it from it happening to you? Well, I have to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. I'll be back in segment 2. This episode's only going to have 2 segments due to my weak voice. So forgive me for that, but it's going to be a shortened segment. We're not going to do 3 segments today. But I will be back after take a quick break. We hear from this week's sponsor, and I'll tell you exactly what my thoughts are about this and what it has to do with you and what you can do about it. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks so much for sticking with me through that break. Now let's get back in to this topic on episode 158 of the Everything Medicare Podcast. So, what can you do about something like this? Well, the short answer is nothing. There's nothing that you can do about this. We never know if a hospital group is going to stay in network with a certain provider. Now, it's likely that typically you don't typically see Medicare Advantage networks, folks, dramatically change from year to year. It's not very common. It affects the plan's star ratings if they're changing that much network-wise year in and year out. It's not good for the health plan, and they know that. It's also not good for the provider, and the provider knows that. If you look at it from the provider aspect, if they have, let's say 10% of their patients have insurance through a certain insurance company and they terminate their contract with that insurance company, or they get terminated by the insurance company, well, those 10% of people are probably majority of them going to leave and go find new doctors that are in network. Not a huge percentage of them usually are going to change their insurance over it. Some will. But I believe more would probably go find a new provider and a new doctor. It's not good for anybody involved. It's not good for the patients. It's not good for the insurance companies. And it's not good for the providers, meaning the doctor's offices, the hospitals, the medical groups, whoever is involved. There's really nothing that you can do about that. And that is, in my opinion, the biggest downside of Medicare Advantage plans. Now, it's not to say that no one should have a Medicare Advantage plan. I'm not saying that. We do a lot of Advantage plans for people here, and I'd say I could count on one hand how many times I've seen something like this affect my own clients. And trust me, we have hundreds and hundreds. Our organization as a whole has thousands of Medicare Advantage clients. Okay. But it is something that could impact you and something you need to be aware of. Luckily, we now have the OEP period, the open enrollment period that goes from January 1st through March 31st, where Medicare Advantage members can make one change during that time period. So if you're like my client that called yesterday that I mentioned in segment 1, you're going to be able to make a change one time. We're going to be able to change him to a plan that his doctor's in the network with. He's not going to be in a situation where he's stuck on his plan. So that helps. It helps being able to change basically 6 months out of the year, essentially, maybe a little bit less. In the past, you could only make changes from October 15th through December 7th. So it's not as problematic as it used to be because you can change more often. And it doesn't happen that often, but it is something that you need to be aware of because it could happen on a scale that could affect a lot of people. This might impact a lot of people. Mednax is a tremendously large provider, but it's something that you need to be aware of, okay? Like I said in segment 1, the 3 things you need to watch out for Advantage plans is the ever-changing benefits, the fact that they can pull out of counties, and the fact that your doctor can drop out of the network tomorrow. Like I said, it doesn't benefit anybody involved, and they typically don't jump to that, and it doesn't happen often. So you're probably safe, but it's something you need to be aware of. It's definitely something that you need to be made aware of with these networks and these particular Medicare Advantage plans, folks. Folks, I just wanted to take a little bit of time and close this episode out by discussing kind of some news that's going on. I have been making guest appearances to promote my new book, The Insurance Funnel, 9 Easy Tests Every Insurance Policy Must Pass to Be Worthy of Purchase. It's on Amazon right now if you're not aware. Go pick it up right now. It's a beautiful book. It's basically my formula to disclose, if you will, if an insurance policy is worthy to be purchased. Any type of insurance policy. It's a foolproof formula that I've developed. We're in the process of getting licensed in California and Virginia, so we're going to be able to service those areas. For anybody that's listening in those areas, we're going to be able to service you very soon. I will make sure I announce that when we are completely ready to go. And there's just a lot of exciting things happening with our organization going on from now to the end of the year. And I'm just so happy and so honored that all of you are, being a part of it with us and witnessing it with us and going through it with us and being part of this journey with us. My goal is I want to change the Medicare industry for the better. I want to change the health insurance industry for the better. And part of that is putting the information out there for you to grasp it, for you to be able to obtain it. Our podcast, I've always looked at it as a library where any question that you can possibly have about Medicare, there's going to be an episode just for that. And you can go through the library and get your questions answered. I'm sorry that this episode's being cut short, that it's shorter than it normally is. My voice is just having trouble, folks. This is very much lingering on me. I feel fine. I don't feel sick, but I do have this lingering issue with my throat and my voice. Doctor told me to be normal. I hope they're right. Hopefully my voice is back to normal and we can bring you a full-fledged episode soon. But I'm going to make sure that we're bringing you episodes. We're not going to break schedule. 3 episodes a week. That's the goal. Thanks so much for listening, folks. If you're listening to us on a platform that allows you to do so, like Apple Podcast or iTunes or Stitcher or any of the other platforms, please do me a favor. Leave us a 5-star review and what you've enjoyed about the show. It helps us reach more people just like you who need to hear our message. Have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll be back with you Monday. Take care now, folks.